really amazing day to watch Shohei Ohtani. I love Kike behind the dish sitting crisscross applesauce for this.
Yeah.
Right. And Shohei's he's having a great time. Like, I really have never seen him this visually goofy in an important, like, baseball context before. Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world with the Skubals to call Tarik and Ace. I'm Jake Mintz. That's Jordan Shusterman. And we saw God in this Comerica Park tonight.
Oh, we sure did. And Tarik Skubal was so damn good. You say tonight, we are recording this late on Sunday evening, but this incredible performance from Tarik Skubal began in the morning. What a moment for Roku leadoff to have Tarik Skubal defending the Tigers from the Guardians of Opportunity. I know we're jumping right into it. We have a lot of weekend action to get to.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, Tarik Skubal is going to be our first topic, even though the Tigers lost the series. Tigers lost again and again and again until Tarik Skubal said no more. We have a lot to get to, Jake. But before we get to Skubal, are you doing okay? We're recording on Sunday night for good reason.
I will be in your state, in your house, in your life tomorrow as the Los Angeles Dodgers travel to Cleveland. I saw them this weekend in New York City, and they wouldn't let me on either of their two team planes. So I will be going to LaGuardia tomorrow to be picked up by you.
Which I do wonder if you will be joined by some other members of the Dodgers non-team traveling party. I imagine the Dodgers beat will be traveling tomorrow. Okay, kind of a tough turnaround, the Sunday night baseball straight to the Monday game, but not too far of a flight. And I look forward to hosting you here this week. But we are going to talk before we're going to do some IRL pods, which we're very much looking forward to. But before we get to that, we remain here in our respective abodes. And yes, we are going to start with Tarik Skubal. That is our opener.
Well, holy crap. If you're listening to this, chances are you're not a Tigers fan. That's just math. That's numbers, right? Chances are you're not a Dodgers fan, but better chances you're a Dodgers fan than a Tigers fan. Anyway, my point is, go watch this before you continue listening to us. I believe MLB has a clip online of Tarik Skubal and his magnificent outing. I think it's like 4 minutes long. Go watch the highlight package. Go experience the last inning in full of what he did today.
And here's what was so cool about this game. And again, right, kind of a strange circumstance. MLB's been having these Sunday leadoff games, this Roku-sponsored game that starts at like 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And the Tigers, I mean, they were staring a mop in the face here. Cleveland goes into Detroit and wins the first 3 games of this series. And we're going to give Cleveland some love here in a second.
They win games 6, 7, and 8 of the ALCS.
Yes, right. So of course we have this DS. To be clear, it was not the CS. I believe that the Yankees were in the CS. They'll remind you that later. But again, it's like vibes are not awesome, kind of going in. But you're like, well, the ultimate stopper, Tarik Skubal. I mean, if the Guardians are going to mop, like it's meant to be, because they're going to have to beat Tarik Skubal to do it. And the last time they saw Tarik Skubal, they beat him because Lane Thomas hit a grand slam and they won Game 5 of the DS. So you have to imagine Tarik Skubal has been looking forward to facing the Guardians again for quite some time. And what was so cool about this performance is that as you're watching it go along, and he's just absolutely dicing him up, and the inclination is, oh, well, we look at the pitch count, and you're like, okay, no hitter, perfect game. Is he going to do this? But when Will Wilson breaks it up with a double, my thought was not, oh man, he's not going to get a perfect game. It was like, oh no, he ain't slowing down. Like we are still watching one of the best outings of the season. And it felt like he actually amped it up after he allowed that double, because not only does the velo tick up, he just gets better and better and better. And because he was so efficient in the early innings, the complete game was a lock. He had the run support, and you knew Hinch was going to let him go.
I'm happy that the hit came relatively early in the 6th inning, because when we talk about this game, it wasn't almost a no-hitter, right? No. That's not the conversation.
No.
The headline here is best pitcher on planet at his best. Mm-hmm. That's what this was. Mm-hmm. And in an age where starting pitching and starting pitchers like Tarik Skubal are rarer than they've ever been because of how baseball has evolved over the last 2 decades, really, to have a moment like this was amazing because it reminded us what starting pitchers could and should be when they are purring at their best. Now, obviously, Tarik Skubal is amazing because he is an outlier, and that is why he was able to go complete game shutout, first of his career, 94 pitches, holy Lord, 72 strikes, what in the bejesus, 2 hits, not a walk in the park, 13 punch outs, and the 26 whiffs. The last pitch came in at 102.6. 102.6 on his 94th pitch of the game. Blew it past. I believe it was
Arias.
Who was Arias? Gabriel Arias. Yeah. Thank you.
So we had our little awards check-in last week, and I think I ended up picking Skubal. We talked about how the American League field is pretty stacked, and I kind of defaulted to him. We talked about Fried and Crochet, or maybe I picked Crochet. I'm not even sure. We acknowledged that Skubal was in the conversation to defend his crown, but we did not talk that much about him. And the reason why we wanted to lead with him in this show, Cardinals fans, Rays fans, I know we normally start with the sweeps. We're going to get to you here in a second. But this was one of the best games we've ever seen pitched. Sure, statistically, maybe it's not that much of an outlier, right? But when you talk about the efficiency, you talk about finishing the way that he did, not just that last pitch, but those last 3 innings, really, racking up the whiffs the way that he did. It was unbelievable. And now you look up and you realize, okay, wait a minute. Tarik Skubal, over his last 9 games, ready for this? He has 82 strikeouts. Am I seeing this correctly? This like is hard for me to comprehend. I think I'm doing this math correct. That in his last 9 starts, including this masterpiece we saw on Sunday, 82 strikeouts and 3 walks. So now, because his first outing of the season, he allowed 4 runs against the Dodgers on opening day. His second outing, he had 3 walks and allowed 3 runs against the Mariners. They lost that game. So he actually lost his first 2 decisions. And since then, he has not been defeated, and the Tigers have only lost 1 game that he's pitched in. But I just want to say that again. 82 strikeouts and 3 walks in his last 9 starts.
That is outrageous.
Yeah. And so, okay, so let's talk about, so the velo, of course, was on display at the end.
When his strikeouts and 3 walks.
When his changeup,
just quickly, 12 runs allowed over his last 8 starts.
So
he's
the ERA
also
is
doing that.
Low. Yeah. No, but the ERA is low too. But you know, there's some other pitchers that like Chris Bubich. We're going to talk about him a little later. Like he's on a run right now where he's got a point whatever ERA, and I feel like he's that. But that strikeout to walk ratio, I just hadn't quite registered. Over that amount of time. So I don't know if that is explicitly historic or anything. His walk rate this year, again, even before, is lower than it was last year. I mean, he's already been a pretty good strike thrower since he's kind of had this breakout of these last 3 years. But man, oh man. So what are some other visceral takeaways of what was working? We know the line speaks for itself. He only allows 2 hits. He doesn't walk anyone, whatever. To me, I mean, the changeup is just, especially when he is throwing that hard and he's able to sell it that well, it's to both sides. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then, you know, he has the breaking stuff too, but that changeup is so special.
Well, yeah. And he doesn't change his arm speed when he throws it. And when it's coming out at 100, you know, like right. To hit 100, good 100 that's located 100 with carry, you have to cheat. You have to cheat to it. You have to make a decision on it early. And then it just makes the changeup borderline untouchable. I really want to talk about the theater of the 9th inning of this game, because it's bopping at Comerica right now. feels like I don't have the number in front of me. What the
we got 37K.
37 strong. Okay, 37 strong at Comerica on their feet basically the whole inning with 2 strikes on the last hitter. He needs 1 more strike for the complete game shutout.
Oh,
it gets so loud at Comerica that he needs to call out catcher Dylan Dingler to like fix the pitch comms device and talk about the pitches he couldn't hear. It was like a quarterback on the road in a wild card round game in at Heinz Field, right? He couldn't hear. Then he blasts 102.6 past Gabriel Arias. And before Arias can get out of the freaking batter's box, the Tigers won again. It plays. It plays on the loudspeaker of the stadium. You go back and watch it and listen. His foot is on home plate. Like he's a righty. He's crossing the box to go to the first baseline. And the Tigers one again plays. Skubal just leans back, almost like bathing in his own greatness. And it was just that 3 minutes after the fact was so cool. He's just high-fiving everybody. And then he does the interview with Andre Knott, who's the Guardian sideline guy, because shouts out to Roku, I guess. That's how they do it. They do like a mishmash.
Right. We had Dan Dickerson and Rick Manning. Yeah.
And Skubal's emotional. Like he's wiping away tears. And he said like to hear a stadium calling your name. I mean, what a thing that is, right? And I loved how Tigers fans recognized what this was. And not just recognized what this was, but elevated it to something really special, something that crossed over, something that I will remember for a long, long time as someone who was not there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned that, his reaction, because I think that's another thing to take away from this as we kind of open this up to this series in general. But one of the realities of his postseason experience last year is that all 3 of his starts were on the road. And so he's had, not that he hasn't had big starts at home where the fans have been, saying Scoob, right? Like he's had some, but this was clearly a moment where it felt like he really got to put on a show in front of his home fans in a very real way. What he did in Houston in the postseason was amazing. What he did in game 1 against the Guardians was amazing. Game 2, but that was in Cleveland. And then to be back there in game 5, we know how that one did not end in his favor, but he amped it up on the road, right? Remember that in that game 2 against Cleveland, he's acting like the wrestling heel, and that was great too. But this is different, right? To do it in front of your home fans and to do it in a spot where, right, you don't want to get mopped at home by the team that's chasing you. And this is where we can kind of just open it up here because, yeah, I mean, this is the first kind of Tigers slip up, and Skubal showed up and he made sure that they didn't get mopped. So credit to him. But for Cleveland, who, a week ago we were talking about them getting swept in Cincinnati, right? And it was like, that's not a great look in the Ohio Cup for the Gardos. But this was a pretty impressive showing for them. On Thursday, they get 7 strong from Tanner Bybee. Jack Flaherty wasn't bad, but he has still not been probably what Detroit was kind of hoping for. They win that game 7-0. They win game 2 3-1. Slade Ciccone, I think, is an interesting character that we're going to have to kind of dig in on as we figure out what Cleveland kind of has in the rotation this year, especially because Ben Lively goes down. He needs Tommy John, which is disappointing. And when I say, okay, what's the big deal with Ben Lively? At the very least, he's been eating innings for them basically since the start of last season, and now he's not going to be able to do that. So Ciccone was good in game 2, and then the Tigers scored 3 in the first inning in game 3 and then don't score at all until the 10th. This game goes to extras. Guardians score 4 in the top of the 10th. Clase allows a couple more runs again at the bottom of the 10th, but he's generally been better, and Cleveland gets the win 7-5. So that put them up in a pretty, again, especially that third win where it felt like it was a close one and Detroit still couldn't kind of get it over the line there. It was a pretty strong first 3 games for Cleveland.
I think this series I cannot imagine a series where both fan bases leave it feeling awesome. Like, if you're a Tigers fan on Monday morning, like, yeah, it stinks. They took 3-4 or whatever. You just witnessed the best start in franchise history since Justin Verlander, maybe even better in some ways. Because
one of the best pitch games,
Verlander,
I'm sure.
Not to throw shade on Verlander. Skubal seems to love this and plays to the crowd and is a performer more and is about the Detroit of it in a way that I don't feel like Verlander ever was, which is not to take away from what Verlander did on the mound. I mean, he's the Hall of Fame pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the history of the franchise, history of baseball, whatever. But there's just something about the way that Skubal goes about pitching that makes it just connects there. And I would love for a Tigers fan to, like, who can write well, elucidate this better than I can. But I just get this sense, and I'm not trying to throw shade on Verlander, but Skubal just feels like a thing, man.
To me, it's as much about just his path. And Tigers have had a lot of great pitchers. You know, Scherzer was there too. They've had some
you didn't
really,
think
really
this
good
was going to be the guy. Like, Casey Mize
that's
is the
difference.
first
That's
overall pick on the staff, right? He was 1-1. Skubal was what, 10th round?
Yeah, seventh,
eighth,
ninth round.
Yep.
See,
we didn't even know.
Yeah, wasn't first. I can tell you that he was not a top 5 pick, not first overall.
Dude.
And so, while he is known that he's at least the last 3 years has kind of been building towards this, we know he did win the Cy Young last year. It's not like this is his first great start. The reality is he looks better than he did last year, and that's amazing. Dude, so that's why we have spent the first 15 minutes talking about Tarik Skubal. So anything else on this series? Obviously, you're going to see the Gardos here in person this week against the Dodgers, and I look forward to seeing how they fare against Los Angeles. But it was still a good series result for Cleveland. And we have to mention this too, because this is just an amazing note from Anthony Castrovince, is that going into Sunday, these two franchises were tied in the all-time series dating back to 1901, 1,161 to 1,161. And Tarik Skubal has given Detroit the edge.
I have this memory from spring training this year where I saw Skubal throw a bullpen. And it was almost like watching like a really legendary guitarist like go through their warm-up, and just to watch the way that Skubal was moving in the bullpen, like he was in just such command of what he wanted to do, what he wanted to work on, the way he was interacting with the catcher, the way he was interacting with the coaching staff on the iPad, right, with the TrackMan, and he's just kind of flowing through this setup in a way that it was like just watching someone who's great at what they do the thing is wonderful, even if it's not baseball, right?
That also reminded me of one more thing before we get to our sweeps. Cardinals fans, Rays fans, we're getting there. I'm so glad you mentioned that his relationship with the coaching staff, with the catchers, him and Jake Rogers. I know Dylan Dingler caught this game. But this was another upside of this not being a no-hitter, not being a perfect game. Because another great moment was, I think it was in the bottom of the 8th, they showed him on the bench talking to Chris Fetter, pitching coach. And Fetter was like, I have no idea what they were saying, but Fetter was like laughing and like they were like kind of chopping it up. That would never happen.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of a perfect game. Like he was clearly telling him like, whatever. And he was in a good mood, whatever. They're up 5 runs, whatever. But that's you would never have seen that, if he had the special thing.
So
I thought
Tarik Skubal.
Yeah. Cheers to you, man. Oh my gosh. And again, what a moment
sick
for Roku leadoff. All right, Jake.
Let's take a break.
Have 2 sweeps. Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's take a break.
We'll take a break.
There was a lot of Roku leadoff.
It's true. Hey, what a moment. All right, we'll take a break. When we return, yes, the sweeps. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. How sweep it is.
Clean up, everybody, everywhere.
There is no shame in getting swept.
I never got swept.
You guys got swept.
When we say how sweep it is, let's be clear. We're doing it a little tongue-in-cheek. And we're also tipping our cap to the great Sam Miller and Ben Lindbergh. This was a bit on Effectively Wild, I believe, like many, many years ago, about how the phrase "how sweep it is both perfect and unbelievably skin-crawlingly corny, and to use it in a serious context is goofy, and to use it in a goofy context is serious." And they used it on the air, on the broadcast for the St. Louis Cardinals today, after they swept away the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks in a delightful series win for the Redbirds.
Yeah, this was, I mean, all three of these games were kind of similar. Snakes had a chance to win at the end of really all of these, but the Cardinals got it done. Game 1, Miles Mikolas, another decent outing. Zach Gallen, not so much, not terrible, but still, Zach Gallen, we got to get back on track here. Yeah.
For the J-Kive, those are two takes that I've been trying to slowly peddle, is that Miles Mikolas is better than you think, and I'm worried about Zach Gallen. In the end, I think they're about as good as each other right now.
Well, right now, man, I mean, again, that's a concerning trend for Scott Boras client Zach Gallen. I mean, come on, we got to get it going. Anyway, Ryan Helsley, who is really going to become a very interesting character for the St. Louis Cardinals in the coming months, whether he likes it or not. He allows a couple home runs in the 9th inning, but he does hang on to win as the Cardinals win that one 4-3. Game 2 on Saturday is a close one. It's 1-1 through 6 innings. Matthew Liberatore, who has been one of the probably biggest developments for St. Louis this year in terms of just like positive things that have happened for them that we weren't necessarily expecting, is Matthew Liberatore becoming a above average starting pitcher. He goes 7 innings, allows 1 run. But then there's a ton of runs in the last 3 frames of this game, including against Justin Martinez. He had been on the IL for a few weeks, one of the hardest throwers in baseball. He was on the IL with a shoulder issue. He comes back and allows some runs, which is not what you want to see for the guy. The Diamondbacks bullpen has been desperate to get back. Helsley comes in for the 2nd day in a row, and it's close, but he hangs on. Cardinals win that one 6-5. And then on Sunday in the series finale, Sonny Gray was very good. We got 3 more Brendan Donovan hits. He's hitting .328, which is the 3rd best mark in the National League. Mason Wynn hits a home run. Nolan Arenado makes a remarkable catch in the 9th and falls into the stands. They ruled it that you're not allowed to fall into the stands, and you're not allowed to fall into the stands. And so the runners got to advance, and it was like, oh my God, is he going to somehow, this is going to work against the Cardinals? But ultimately, Phil Maton, the only free agent that the Cardinals signed this year, manages to close this one out as the Cardinals win 4-3.
I would like to talk about Phil Maton.
Sure.
In the context of the Cardinals. So who is Phil Maton? Phil Maton is a 32-year-old reliever. I would say if you wanted to look at baseball savant sliders, or really just look at efficacy from relievers this year and do an efficacy fastball velocity plot.
Oh yeah, he throws.
It would be
there's a lot of cutters though, right? I mean, it's not really.
It's cutters, but still, that's his
not
fastball.
Throwing hard. Not throwing hard.
He's not throwing hard. It's like him and Alec Jacob on the Padres, who is just awesome, right?
He's a sidearmer. Right?
I understand.
Yeah.
Phil Maton for years has been this in a way. He has lived on the edge of not throwing hard in later innings, and there was a moment, and he's been generally good doing this. Okay, there was a moment last year where in a Sunday night baseball game against the Phillies, when Phil Maton was on the Mets, the Phillies were throwing Zach Wheeler, and the Mets were Tyler McGill bullpen gaming it. And this is when the Mets were just untouchable. They could roll Jake Jordan and TJ the producer and our parents out there, and we could beat the Dodgers, right? This was the Mets were cooking with gas. And they sent Phil Maton out there. I'll never forget this. For the top of the Phillies lineup on Sunday Night Baseball. And he just goes, boom, boom, boom. Get 1, 2, 3. You're like, dang, nice inning from Phil Maton. They send Phil Maton back out there, and he gets the next 3 Phillies, 4, 5, 6. And I'm like, the Mets are never going to lose. And that is kind of how I felt watching Phil Maton in the 9th inning today for the Cardinals against the Diamondbacks. He looks like the first two hitters get on, right? And it's first and second and nobody out, top of the order, Corbin Carroll, and he just strikes him out. And it's like
slow. He's got a slow curve. This is just not a pitch that really exists much anymore. The mid-70s curveball for a swing and miss. And I believe both of his strikeouts were on that. He gets Carroll and he gets Gurriel on like a 75 mile an hour curveball, which is like aesthetically very enjoyable. But yeah, he's been, I mean, again, it's like, it's goofy to be like, they really crushed this offseason. They got Phil Maton, but I mean, at least he's been good.
This is their only free agent signing. Phil Maton doing what he did today does not actually make the Cardinals a World Series champion. There are a lot of other more important things going on with the team, but I'm speaking from my own perspective. Watching Phil Maton do what he did today pushed me to a point emotionally where I'm like, you know what? The Cardinals might have the sauce.
They might be okay. Cardinals are only 2 games behind the Cubs now. This is a team that they've had some weekends where we're like, all right, are we paying attention? What is good about this team? We talk about how they rake, but they don't bang, right? Which is to reference that they get a lot of hits. They don't hit they're not necessarily slugging. But Brendan Donovan is fantastic. That's just a really, really good hitter to have around. And I would say that like they just don't have too many automatic outs, and their defense is great. And they've gotten enough steps forward on the mound to go along with some veterans that are maybe not as cooked as we thought, which Miles Michaelis is certainly at the top of that list. And then we mentioned Phil Maton, but they've also like, I don't know if anybody knows who Kyle Leahy is, but like he's got like a 1 ERA in 30 innings, and he was okay for them last year. So they've got more stuff going right on the mound. Steven Matz, I believe, has faced the most hitters in baseball without allowing a home run. That's probably at least a little bit of luck, but we'll take it. So I don't know. I was pretty adamant coming into the season that they had too much talent to just downright tank it, even if they did want to be sellers at the deadline. But as we bring it back to Ryan Helsley, who has not been nearly as good as he was last year, which is part of what makes him interesting, is that it's not like have this no doubt game over closer. I know he got the job done in these first 2 games, but he's not this one superpower that the Cardinals have. And yet you have to imagine he's the first person that still teams are going to be calling about if they do decide to go in the other direction.
They're not. And here's why the Cardinals will not, if they stay anywhere near where they are. This is the last year for their, I believe, president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak. He is retiring after the year. He has been the architect of what I would describe as the Cardinal rise, the Cardinal way, and the Cardinal plateau over the last 4 years. Chaim Bloom will be taking over starting next season. And I think that if Chaim was in charge this year, there'd be a higher percentage chance that Helsley could get traded if the Cardinals stay around 500 in the style of like the Josh Hader gets dealt to San Diego while the Brewers are in it trade. I know that didn't turn out well, but there are various examples of this. Team kind of in the mix with a good closer, flips that closer because it's a closer reaching free agency and you want to get some value back, right? But because this is Johnny Moe's swan song and he wants this team to be as competitive as possible in his last year, I find it very, very hard to believe they're going to trade Helsley at the deadline.
Yeah. I mean, he's their one piece. You know, they have some other pitchers. I mean, Phil Maton is Fetty, right? Matz, Michaelis. So their pitching staff's probably going to look different next year no matter what. But I do think it's not. Yeah.
I don't think they're thinking about it that way. Like, I think at the beginning of the year, we thought this team was going to be worse than it is. Now they're 30-23. They're 7 games over 500, 2 games back in the division. If they sustain this for another month, they're not selling it the deadline.
No, I agree.
They might get into stand pat abyss where
which
we've seen teams
is
do this
fine.
before.
Which is fine. And I think too, like, even if they don't view themselves as like World Series contenders, last 2 years has just been so bleak in a way that like the Cardinals, we just haven't seen with them. Even though they won
Correct.
83 games last year, it didn't feel that way, right? Attendance was down. They were getting booed at times, both each of the last 2 years. And that's another thing that's just not how it goes in St. Louis. And so for them to even be in the mix is, I think, refreshing, I have to imagine, for the fan base.
I want to talk about attendance. So they have the single largest year-over-year decrease.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the Mets having the biggest increase. The Cardinals are averaging 8,400 fewer fans per game. If they trade at the deadline, that will not only impact the second half, but it will almost certainly, unless they sign Kyle Tucker, impact ticket sales for next year in a substantial way. And I think that is something that leadership group thinks about and cares about.
Yeah. And just to be clear, that mark is through the games at the same time, right? So it's not like just compared to the total number from last year, but that's how Baseball Reference tracks it. But again, that's a reflection as to how fans were feeling going into last year. Because obviously after 2023, nobody was especially excited to go to Cardinals games. And that was a rare thing. That has not been the case for St. Louis in recent years. So no, I think they're going to stay in it. As for Arizona, first time they've been swept all year. So that kind of tells you that things are maybe not going as well as they have been. They are on a 5-game losing streak. They are below 500 for the first time since they were 5-6 in April. So yeah, again, this team, this has totally changed how I feel about them. No, I still believe in this as one of the best offensive groups. I still have concerns about the pitching staff. It's kind of just a more extreme version of what we were watching last year, even with some different personnel. So it's not great because this is not a division where you can really afford to go on these long skids of not winning. But I still think they're pretty good, but this is not the best look for Arizona.
This pitching staff is worse than everybody thought it would be.
Yep.
They are 24th in team ERA. Here are the teams with worse team ERAs than the Arizona Diamondbacks: Angels, Nationals, A's, Marlins, Orioles, Rockies.
So the bad teams.
All teams that were probably going to be bad, and the Orioles, who, well, you know.
Yep, not good enough. Not good enough. And it's not exactly news, but that's where, even if Corbin Burns is doing Corbin Burns things, he can't do it by himself. So he is not fixed issues that we kind of had about them coming into the season.
The other sweep this weekend was the Tampa Bay Rays sweeping the Toronto Blue Jays in Tampa, which means the Tampa Bay Rays are now in second place in the incredibly disgusting American League East. I'll announce my least favorite division in baseball this year.
Yeah, how about that, right? I mean, this is, not only is it the biggest division lead of any team, 6 games for the Yankees, the Rays, Red Sox, and Blue Jays have just been trading places nonstop for basically 3 weeks in a row with nobody coming close to catching the Yankees. And so every weekend there's like,
is the Yankees are at the top of a flight of stairs sipping a beer, right? The Orioles are at the bottom of that flight of stairs asleep. And the Rays, Red Sox, and Blue Jays are just climbing over each other on the stairs, falling down and getting up and falling down.
They're playing slippery stairs on ESPN The Ocho. The Orioles are waiting for a broken elevator. They are not even aware of the stairs. The
Yankees already won. The Yankees have already won, and the other teams don't know that. They're just pretending like they have. Anyway, congrats to the Rays.
Hey,
on the sweep.
The Rays outscored Toronto this weekend 19-2. Their pitching
was
great.
All today.
That was mostly today. Drew Rasmussen goes 6 shutout on Friday. Shane Baz is better than Jose Barrios. Brandon Lau and Curtis Mead homer on Friday and on Sunday. And the Rays with a 7-run 5th inning on Sunday and 7 shutout for Ryan Pepio, which is nice to see. I know we are both very high on him. Rays back to 500, second place. But they've been so inconsistent that it's hard to really know what to expect from them. Their next 3 series, though, they got the Twins, they got 4 in Houston, and then 3 against Texas. That should be a little bit better to see them against some non-AL East teams, see how they kind of stack up. Because, I mean, a bigger picture way to think about this mess in the AL East is like, are we going to get another AL East team in the postseason? I mean, no, again, we've talked all year about how nobody's good in the American League. So it's not like these other divisions are covering themselves in glory. But
if the
I
season
don't know.
ended
I mean,
today,
that's part of it.
If the season
kind
ended
of compelling.
Today, the 3 wildcard teams would be the Guardians, the Twins, and the Royals, the 3 AL Central teams, which is adorable.
We have 4. You thought last year was crazy. Oh my gosh. Look at them now. This is really something. Anyway, so hey, Rays, good for you.
Who knows?
Again, like Toronto, what's going on
Whatever,
here?
dude.
I can't figure that out. But like we just said,
I want to
alternating.
I want to sim a month of the AL East.
Yeah, no, but we're just there. It's going to be the same thing at that point. These 3 teams are still going to be within 2 games of each other, and the Yankees will be 12 games up. It's like, all right, great. What did they accomplish? How far back are the Orioles? I guess that's what we'll be wondering.
Before we take a break, let's do Mets Dodgers here.
Yes, let's do it.
Mets win the series over the Dodgers. The Dodgers are entering a gauntlet.
Yes.
They, starting with this 3-game set with the Mets, have 26 games in 28 days. All of those games are against teams with records above 500. And in the shadow of this past weekend, those games just got harder somehow. It seems they go Mets, Gardos, Yankees, Mets again.
Yankees Mets homestand, which is pretty fun.
Yankees Mets homestand. A lot of traffic in Chavez Ravine. In St. Louis, they're good now. In San Diego, first showdown of the year with the Dads. Home against the Gigantes, big one. Home against the Padres. I mean, that is, look, no one feels bad for the Dodgers. We're not playing a tiny little violin for these guys. I understand. But this is all to say, this is a crucial part of their season. And how this next month of games go will dictate how the Dodgers are able to treat the second half of the season. Can they continue playing with house money with the cushion they have and rolling out, respectfully, Landon Knack, right? And Justin Robleski and all these other fill-in pitchers? Or do they need to be more desperate and make kind of bigger moves at the deadline? That decision that they have to make in 2 months starts with this next month. And that month got off to a really weird start in the first game of the series where Kershaw throws 2 innings, starts pouring. They have to go bullpen game. I was at Citi Field till 1 a.m. One of the most disgusting, ugly, sloppy games I've seen in a long time.
So bad.
Somehow they do fireworks after. That was not a joke. That was real. They really did blow them out. People were like, what about the people living nearby? You haven't been to Citi Field. People don't really live nearby. That's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah. This isn't like Lambeau Field in the middle of some random Wisconsin neighborhood.
Let me tell you, no one at the chop shops, they're not making a noise complaint. They're not filing a noise complaint with the city. I guarantee you.
It's also New York.
It's New York.
It's New York.
Here's an example. Okay, I live in the city, and you're allowed to do construction starting at 8 a.m.s 6 days a week. That includes Saturdays. So on yesterday morning, I woke up at 8 a.m. to a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And I looked up the rules. Legal. Fireworks at 1 a.m. on a Friday. Totally fine. Welcome to New York.
It's like 2 a.m. It was. I think it was probably 2 a.m. when that started. That game ended way, way, way late.
Okay, so those 2 teams do that mess fest. And then David Peterson has an all-time important start for the Mets, where he goes 7 2/3, unbelievable showing, is able to then immediately save the bullpen, right? Because of all the guys who had to pitch on Friday, that's why the Mets won tonight, if we're being real, is that none of them had to really throw last night because Peterson went so deep. Brett Beatty looks great. Ohtani goes 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. Soto hits one off the wall, barely below the fence. Mets win 5-2. Then tonight, Ohtani leads the game off with a homer. Dodgers put it on sleep mode. Pete bomb was sweet. I was there for that. I left in the 8th inning. Reed Garrett gets the save. Senga's good. Mets win 3-1.
Ohtani hit a home run. Did he do anything else today?
I think that was it.
All right. I think we will take a break.
Nope.
No, wait,
Just
hold
kidding.
on. It says something here. Well, hold on. Wait a minute. It says that
Go to yahoo.com. Let's see what it says on Yahoo.
It says that I'm reading here from Jake Mintz. I think
That's
this is
me.
an exclusive. I think you were the only person that saw this and tweet about this. That his
I don't think that's true.
He threw some pitches. He faced
Shohei Ohtani. He pitched. He pot. He pot today. It was pretty sweet. Shohei Ohtani had his first live bullpen since he had Thomas Johnson surgery on a date that I now know by heart, by the way. These are the things when you know you're writing and covering these things over and over again. Like in my head, I know September 19th, 2023 is the day Shohei got TJ. This was the first time
how many things that have how many things that have happened.
September 19th, 2023. This is the first time he threw a baseball to a hitter was today.
I mean, and he was throwing it.
This was supposed to happen.
Pretty good.
I'll give you the context. This was supposed to happen yesterday. But the game on Friday went so late that Shohei himself was like, yeah, I'm sleepy. He's like, I don't want to. I'm tired.
Well, it's like, let me sleep.
And it was interesting. They talked about it after, but it's like, if there's a day where he's on the base paths a lot, like they might pull back on the pitching because the Dodgers are going to be a little bit more thoughtful, maybe, than the Angels were. Anyway, so it was supposed to happen Saturday, happened Sunday. I'm just going to tell the story from my eyes. I roll up to the Mets media gate. Okay, the Mets media gate opens at 2:10 on 7:00 game nights. Usually, Clubhouse opens at 3:10, and that's just like an hour of buffer. Sometimes I'll get there on the earlier side and do some work in the press box, and then head down to the clubhouse. I get there at exactly 2:10 because I want to get there to see Shohei, who I know is starting at 2:30. I get there, line is like, it was like there was a new iPhone dropping in the Citi Field basement.
Right.
It was nuts.
You were like, oh, I'm here right on time. Nope.
Right on time. Walk in, drop my bag in the press conference room, walk into the stands right behind home plate. And you can see on the broadcast, I believe there's 4 of us. Like on any of the videos of Shohei from like behind the center field cam. Me, Eduardo Perez, David Cohn, Buster Olney.
Right. So this is right.
In the rich guy
baseball
seats.
Crew. Yep.
Sunday Night Baseball crew. I'm in the rich guy
and
seats.
Jake.
And Jake. Not on Sunday Night Baseball. I was at the game. And we're like kind of settling in. Shohei's like walking in from the bullpen after he was just warmed up. And it kind of happened suddenly. Like all the Dodger players just file out of the clubhouse. And like, I would say 10 of them just go behind home plate, behind the net. Kike, Muncy, Dustin May, Anthony Bonda, 5 others are just, they're just crammed behind the net. Down the visiting side, there's like layers and layers and layers of Dodgers, and the Dodgers travel with billions of humans, and they're all on the field to watch Shohei Ohtani pitch.
2 planes.
Because
They have
2 planes. One for the players and one for the load. They're all there to watch Shohei pitch because freaking duh, this is half of what you paid for in a way. And so it's an event. I mean, it's must see TV. Yeah. And then on the visiting side, the Mets start to file out.
They're
so
like, wait,
this
feels pretty cool. I'm going to go check this out.
Jesse Winker, Mendoza, the manager, Carlos Mendoza is just watching. They ask him about it later and they're like, do you usually do that? And he's like, no, it was freaking Ohtani pitching. Right. What? I wasn't going to see it, you know?
Right.
And so it was just like, it was such a unique thing because a live bullpen session for a rehabbing pitcher is usually pointless. You're not going to really learn anything unless he grabs his elbow or the velocity is down 5 ticks. There's not a lot to glean from this. And yet it was, oh my God, Ohtani is pitching. We haven't seen this since, 2 years ago.
He was on the Angels. He also, the other thing about it is it's just really early. And
you lived in Indiana.
Most players are not like, they're not going to go out of their way at 2:30 to, like, most players, this is, especially for a 7:10, this is way earlier than anybody needs to be outside. In fact, oftentimes you will see, I can't think of an exact example. Actually, no, I mentioned earlier. Like, I remember Slade Ciccone through a live batting practice. This is when he's working his way back. There was literally zero people. It was like him and a catcher and maybe one hitter and like one coach in the whole stadium. No one in the stands, no one in the bullpen, because it's earlier. It's before most people are even at the park. And so for everybody to come out from both sides is not surprising, because this is the most important baseball player, but it does speak to how unique it is.
He throws 22 pitches. Don't believe Fabian Ardaya, who said it was 23, and Jack Harris, who said it was 23.
Fake news?
They were wrong. I was right. Okay. The Dodgers checked. Jake Mintz.
Got him.
Let me pull it out. Yeah, I'm all over it, dude. All those days I spent charting for Division III baseball teams paid off today as I charted every pitch that Shohei Ohtani threw in my dorky scorebook, and I counted, and it was 22. Nice. He was 94 to 95, which is where they wanted him to be. They didn't want him to sit higher than that. They wanted the engine purring at like 95%. He did touch 6 and 7. First guy he faced was Ha-Seong Kim, who hit like a pretty firm comebacker at Ohtani that he snared and did a little dance thing. He laughed a lot more during this than I thought.
He was having a lot of fun.
He was having a great time. And I think it was a weird reminder that, like, I think he likes pitching more than he likes hitting.
Yeah.
Which is funny because
he likes whatever he's not doing.
He likes whatever he's not doing. The grass is always greener.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pitchers, every pitcher seems like they like hitting more. You know what I mean? Like, even like Tarik Skubal is probably like, yeah, hitting's awesome. But Ohtani was having a great time. He then faces game planning coordinator JT Watkins, who was what? Random trivia. Any idea?
I know he played in the minors, and I know he was at Army, but
JT Watkins was the only Red Sox employee that was suspended after they were investigated following the Astros investigation.
Whoa.
Do you remember this with like Cora and the Red Sox? Watkins
Isn't this Apple Watch? Isn't this like,
it was the Apple Watch gate? Yeah, it was him. He got suspended for a year. Anyway, now he like does game planning for the Dodgers. I didn't know this.
Oh, our industry is so funny. It's great.
So
anyway,
funny.
Now not only is he doing game planning, he's doing step in, a guy who didn't make it. I don't even think he made it to like full season ball.
He hasn't seen professional pitching since 2016.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah.
And so he went in and faced Ohtani because Ohtani was not comfortable pitching to right-handed hitters yet. And he didn't want to like hit a righty, and he didn't want to hit any of his teammates because he when Ohtani misses with the fastball, he misses arm side. And so that is kind of inside to a righty, and he was afraid that because he's still working back, he would kind of dose a righty in the head and send Teoscar Hernandez to Aya, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, don't worry, I'll just face lefties. JT Watkins, who's a righty, like volunteered, was like, oh, I'll stand in and take some ABs. So he took 2 ABs against Shohei, looked terrible because he's a coach. Struck out.
Then MLB still posts the clip of him. I think this is a splitter. Oh, yeah.
No, they did not post the clip of it.
They posted, I think this is a splitter.
MLB that was a splitter. He threw to Watkins.
The clip, absurd movement on this pitch during Shohei Ohtani's live BP. And yeah, if you don't know any better, for the 99% of the people that are following this account, it just looks like somebody wearing a Dodgers. He's wearing baseball pants. Yeah. He's wearing a helmet, and it's a terrible swing. And that's a 37-year-old coach who hasn't played in 10 years.
I mean,
it is a nasty pitch. To be fair,
it's a sick pitch.
In fact, it's MLB's pinned tweet right now.
No way.
Yeah, JT just, and actually the zoom. If you zoom out, it's like everyone's like laughing at him, which again makes sense.
Oh yeah. So then he draws a walk in his second at bat, which was hilarious. In between, Ha-Seong Kim kind of clobbers one.
Dalton
down the
Rushing,
line
too.
and Dalton Rushing strikes out. The last, okay, so then Ohtani faces those 5 guys. He walks off, he smiles. Mark Pryor talks to us, tells us what the velo is, says that he's asked what's next. He says he's going to DH tonight. And they're like, we don't know.
Got anything else
his
going
body-
on? Like, what's the next part of your progression? It's hitting a home run in about 5 hours.
It was amazing. It was the second pitch of the game, upper tank against Kodai Senga. I'm sure no one in Japan will care about that.
Yeah.
Really amazing day to watch Shohei Ohtani. I love Kike behind the dish sitting crisscross applesauce for this.
Yeah.
Right. And Shohei's he's having a great time. Like, I really have never seen him this visually goofy in an important baseball context before.
He has been waiting a long time. This is a long time for him to
Longer than he
not
wanted.
pitched. I mean, we might be coming up on 2 years. I mean, I assume at this point, this is a big step. And so at this point, it feels already now more realistic that we will see him pitch maybe before the All-Star break, but it's going to be close to 2 years, right? That he will not have, thrown in a competitive game. And that's a long time for anybody, because now, normally Tommy John's not a 2-year thing. It's a year, year plus. And so for someone who's also having already done this once before, yeah, the dude loves pitching because he's pretty good at it. And I'm sure he wants, and guess what? You know why else he's enjoying this? Because he hasn't pitched as a Dodger yet. And he wants to show the Dodgers, yeah, guys, I can do this too. Not that you don't know that, because that's the whole point. But
so
he hasn't done that yet for them, and I think that he's looking forward to it.
So one quick thing, and then we'll take a break. Moment that stuck with me was the Ha-Seong Kim comebacker. It wasn't hit that hard, but it was close to Ohtani. It wasn't like he was going to get hurt, right? But when he snares it, there's like a woo. And in my mind, I'm like, could you imagine? Can you imagine if Ha-Seong Kim ripped one off Ohtani's foot, right?
I was thinking I'm sure they were like, do you want an L screen? He's like, no. That was that.
This is the thing. This is the whole thing. Okay. And this is why I still don't think Ohtani will pitch in the playoffs. They would love for him to pitch, and they need him to hit. Okay.
Yeah.
They'd love, I'll say that again. I understand the Dodgers have more pitching injuries than your local general hospital. They think they can cobble together enough guys to pitch, to cover innings. They do not want to sacrifice Ohtani, the hitter. They have overcome a lot in the last 2 years. I don't know if they can overcome losing Ohtani, the hitter. I really think that is and they do not want to put that at risk. And that is why they have slow played this to such a degree. They keep saying things like, this is a new strain on his body. It's a different kind of stress. Types of stuff that make a lot of sense. Stuff we never heard when the Angels were dealing with him because they let Ohtani do whatever he wanted because they didn't need him in this way. In a way, they needed him more because the stakes were lower because they were bad. But I just remain, I don't want to say skeptical, but I don't see a world where the 2025 Dodgers are completely, let me say it this way, completely remove the reins on Ohtani, the pitcher, in a way that they might with a different pitcher because of what he brings to the hitting side. Now that could manifest itself in a bunch of different ways, but here's an example. Let's just say Kershaw pitches for another 3 weeks. He will get to a point when he comes back from whatever injury he had where the Dodgers are just you just pitch. You're a healthy pitcher and you don't have restrictions. We're not going to let you throw 100 pitches, 120 pitches, and you don't go on short rest, whatever. But they won't have special restrictions for him anymore. I don't think those leave Ohtani this year. I don't. I think maybe next year. I don't think this year.
I understand what you're saying. I disagree just because I think while maybe they do keep pushing, push, and it still doesn't come till after the All-Star break. Maybe he's only starting once every 7 or 8 days. I think he's going to try to do it. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I think, especially since it's going to be 2 years removed, I think that he is who he is for a reason. And I think that they're going to let him try to do it to some degree. But this is an important first step, because for the last 2 months, it was just like, all right, well, we'll just have to wait until it looks like he's doing things where it looks like he's close to coming back. And I still don't know what this means in terms of how soon it is. And I understand what you're saying, that they don't want to lose him as a hitter. But I also still think that those scales have tilted in a way that they do need him on the mound more than they do. And by the way, that cushion that you're talking about is one game right now. It's one game. And the cushion is that it's the Dodgers and that they always do it, but they have a 1-game lead and they are about to do this month where they are facing only good teams. So as you wrote very well on Friday after that, like, we will know a lot more about all of this a month from now because of this situation. And I think Ohtani is a big part of that. Let's take a break. When we return, we have a lot more series to go through, and we will go through them at varying speeds. We'll be right back on Baseball Barbacast.
Welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. I mean, let's talk about the 12 other series. Man, we left a lot of work for ourselves here, but we are workers. Yankees, 2 out of 3. Over the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies win game 1. There's 47,000 souls at Coors Field to watch the 8-42 Rockies take on the Yankees. Obviously, the Yankees are a large part of that, but there are butts and seats. It's a freaking sellout to watch a team that seems to have sold out as well. The Rockies win that first game, even though Judge goes yard. Great note you have on here. I want you to say this because you came up with this. It's great.
Now listen, any circumstance in which the Rockies beat the Yankees in the 2025 baseball season was going to be enjoyable. However, I especially love when the Rockies do it in their City Connect uniforms, because the Yankees are one of just 2 teams that do not have a City Connect. The other one is a team that doesn't have a city. So they have no city to connect to, and that is the A's. And so the Yankees, we know they're too cool for school. They know they're going to Nike saying, no. We cannot disgrace these pinstripes.
Yankees.
We are the Yankees. We would never stoop to your stupid gimmick jerseys. And the Rockies wearing their latest and greatest, very colorful, kind of just beautiful Rockies blue and purple and orange, and they just beat the Yankees, and it's just like, hell yes, that's what your stupid boring road grays, you lose to City Connects, you lose to the Colorado Rockies. And I am not sorry for the Yankees. I am not sorry for the Yankees mentions when they tweet out final Rockies 3, Yankees 2, because this tweet, which got over 1 million views on this broken, terrible website, I'm not even going to read the responses because they are all exactly what you would expect. And had the Rockies managed to win this series, which they did not, it would be a lot funnier. But for now, it was a fun 12 hours where the Yankees lost a game to the Colorado Rockies.
It's like walking into like the New York Philharmonic or seeing like the greatest orchestra in the world and just chugging a beer in jeans and a t-shirt. That's the Rockies beating the Yankees wearing their City Connects. And like that scenario, it didn't end well, as the Yankees came storming back with an all-time angry win. We love an angry win where you're embarrassed in yourself, and so you overcome that by crushing a crappy team the next day. They win 13-1. Max Fried, really good. And game 3, they outlast the Rockies barely to win 5-4, making sure that the Rockies remain winless in their series. They are 0-17 in series this year. They are 9-44. The Yankees have won 6 straight series in a row. I have gotten, just a little teaser here, I've spent like a lot of time over the last week just digging into the Rockies, and I'm working on some stuff related to that, and it is remarkable, and I will leave it there.
Endless source of entertainment. Three more series with a little bit of in-depth thought before we go turbo. Astros take 3 out of 4 over the Mariners. Interesting opportunity in Houston as the Astros try and claw their way back into the AL West race. George Kirby is back for the Mariners. That is good to see. He was okay. Lance McCullers was pretty good. Jose Altuve, who's been very cold, had 2 home runs in that series opener after having just 4 on the season leading up to it. Astros win 9-2. Emerson Hancock was good again on Friday. Kyle Raleigh hits a go-ahead homer off Brian Abreu. That's his 17th home run. Andres Munoz has his 17th save. Mariners win on Friday 5-3. Fromber and Brian Wu were both very good. Astros scored 2 runs off of 2 errors early in that one, and they hang on to win 2-1. And then on Sunday, Luis Castillo throws, I believe, 114 pitches. It was a lot for a pitcher in 2025, but he was pretty good. Unfortunately, the Mariners bullpen was less so, as Christian Walker, he needed this badly. He has been struggling as an Astro. He hits a walk-off home run to take the series for Houston. They are now a game and a half back of Seattle. And again, Mariners, they didn't look awful this weekend, but this was a good showing for Houston to kind of, and they're about to get Jordan back. I think finally he's been a complete non-factor this year. He was bad when he was healthy, when he was playing, and now he's hopefully going to come back. Cam Smith kind of picking it up. It's slowly coming together for Houston. Again, it's not the Astros team we're used to watching, but I think them and Seattle are going to kind of be going back and forth all season. I think they're pretty evenly matched.
I'll take the Astros. Orioles and Red Sox split a 4-game series that was soggied by rain. Couple of takeaways here. Alex Bregman, serious quad injury, suffered on Friday, I believe. That is going to put him on the IL for a while. Hilarious. Not the Bregman being hurt thing, but just that the Red Sox now have a hurt third baseman, a hurt first baseman, a guy who can play both and will play neither, as Devers will remain the designated hitter for the foreseeable future. It's hilarious. But guess what? He bangs right now. He can't get out. And so it's like, whatever, who cares? Marcelo Mayer, promoted, top prospect. Can't wait for Good Bad Ugly to talk about his keys that he lost.
Yeah.
Just
we can do more Marcelo Mayer later this week. He's very fun. The fact that he's up before Roman Anthony is interesting. This Red Sox roster is just confounding. The fact that their pitching is all over the place. Giolito is alternating good and disastrous starts. And then they lose these 2 games to Baltimore and look pretty terrible doing it, especially on Sunday. Some just defensive disasters all around. The Red Sox, I believe, have the second most errors in baseball behind only the Rockies. And you know whose fault that isn't? Rafael Devers, who, of course, led their team in errors last year. And he's like, sorry, I don't even own a glove anymore. So you guys want to keep throwing the ball around? That is tough. But yeah, they had a bunch of errors last year. Devers has certainly contributed to them. But yeah, the Orioles, again, good for them. It's nice to have 2 wins in a row for I think the 3rd time this season. But they're still really bad, of course. And so Devers is awesome. Bregman is hurt. Marcelo Mayer is up. That's the Red Sox.
You used to have a note on here, Orioles call-up reliever I've truly never heard of. Who is that?
His name is Yaramil Geraldo. What you got?
The Padres took 2 out of 3 over the Braves.
Hold on. Pause. He was like with the Diamondbacks, and then he was in indie ball. He hadn't pitched in affiliated ball for 3 years. They signed him before this year. I'd never heard. I learned all this yesterday, and they called him up, and I was like, oh my God. Great. There's not a lot of guys that get called up that I never heard of. This is one of them.
I hear what you're saying. However, the Padres took 2 out of 3 over the Braves. This series, if you only watched the first batter in the bottom of the first, you would think that the Braves have never lost again. Then that's Ronald Acuna back, homer on the first pitch. He sees, holy crap, that was cool. If less stuff had happened this weekend, we might have led with it. Sorry. Great to have him back. He hits it 467, 115 off the bat What a thing. Baseball is better when Ronald Acuna Jr. is in it. The Braves lose that first game on an all-time base running mistake. Toot Bland from Eli White. Padres win that one 2-1 and their 6-game losing streak. We get Michael King scratched in game 2. Padres have a bullpen game. That does not go well. Ronald goes yard again. 2 homers for him in 2 games before Luis Angel Acuna, his brother, has one. Game 3, Schwellenbach and Cease are both pretty good. Padres kind of outlast the Braves, winning 5-3. Big homers from Sheets, Cronenworth, and Manny Machado.
All right, now we go really fast. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more series. Let's go turbo.
Faster than fast, quicker than quick. I am lightning.
I feel the need for speed. It's turbo time.
Cubs taking 2 out of 3 over the Cincinnati Reds. The story of this series is that the Reds blew 2 massive leads on Friday and on Sunday. PCA continues to amaze. Justin Turner hit his first home run of the season after I shamed him, asking him why he hasn't homered yet. And Reese McGuire gets called up because Miguel Amaya gets hurt and goes yard twice off of 2 lefties. He had 3 homers off lefties in his career before Sunday. He has 2 on Sunday, and the Cubs come back from an 8-3 deficit to take the series 2-1 over the Cincinnati Reds.
Giants over the Nationals. The Giants can pitch it. They were good all weekend. They allowed in total 5 runs across 3 games. They won the first one and the last one. Robbie Ray was very good on Sunday. Hucking 6 innings, allowing 1 run. The Nats are interesting. They make you think, but are they good? Probably not. Dalen Lyle and Robert Hassel are both up for the Nats. They have a very crowded, young, interesting outfield. Dylan Cruz and Jacob Young are both on the IL, but this might be a too many cooks situation sooner than we realize.
Twins over the Royals. They walk it off on Friday and on Saturday. Ty France's first walk-off homer of his career. Cody Clemens continues to rake inexplicably for the Twins as the Royals blow a 4-0 lead on Saturday, and the Twins walk it off again. They win 5-4. Then Chris Bubich, I mean, this dude is just so good. He outduels Bailey Ober, who was great. Michael Garcia hits a go-ahead single in the top of the 10th as the Royals salvage on Sunday, win 2-1.
The White Sox take 2 out of 3 over the Texas Rangers.
They almost swept. Because oh man, they had it. But they couldn't. They're still the White Sox, folks. It's okay.
Marcus
what happened in this
Semien
one?
moved to the 9 hole for the first time in his career.
Maybe
Incorrect.
since he was on the White Sox.
The last time Marcus Semien hit 9th to start a game, according to my records, was April. Yeah, you like that? Was April 12th, 2016. I believe.
With the White Sox, I think.
With the A's. He struck out looking against Hector Santiago. That's not good. That's been a long time. He has many more years on the contract. I'm worried about the Rangers. You shouldn't lose to the White Sox. Jock Peterson's on the IL. Brett Boone, new hitting coach. You have a podcast, but do you know ball? Who is to say?
Yeah. Defense was the bigger issue for the Rangers this weekend, especially on Saturday. But hey, White Sox, good vibes. You take a series, not going to have a lot of those this year. Phillies taking 2 out of 3 over the A's. Trey Turner leadoff homer in game 1. Zach Wheeler was awesome. Jordan Romano tries to blow it, but Tanner Banks shuts it down on Friday. Then game 2, they go back and forth. Schwarber hits his 18th home run. They score against Mason Miller again. It goes to extras and the Phillies win 9-6. 9th win in a row for the Phillies. 11th loss in a row for the A's. And then on Sunday, Jesus Luzardo strikes out 10. But that's not enough. As the A's manage to squeak out a victory and snap their losing streak, Mason Miller pitches for the 3rd day in a row, and he does get the save ultimately. And good for them, because was it getting bad for those A's.
Highlight of this one was Mark Kotsay, the A's manager, getting thrown out in the 8th inning. And because the clubhouses at the fake baseball stadium they are playing in, hashtag come out to the Sut,
Hashtag
Sutter Health Park. The clubhouses are in left field. So to get there, you have to walk through the field. So he got rung and then just kind of walked incredibly slowly to the clubhouse. It was hilarious. The Marlins took 2 out of 3 over the Angels. The Brewers and the Pirates split a 4-game set. The most interesting thing about this one was what happened today. O'Neal Cruz.
Well, dude, O'Neal had himself a series. I mean, this was not just one swing. He went. I mean, he had a 118-mile-an-hour home run on Friday. That was which would be, I think, the hardest hit home run for 99.999% of players in baseball since StatCast became a thing. And then O'Neal topped it today.
He hit a ball 122.9 miles an hour. That's the hardest ball ever hit in the StatCast era. And because, I mean, I think it's the hardest ball ever. I don't think guys hit balls that hard before we had StatCast. I'm sorry. I don't think so. I don't think they did.
He's, again, I mean, we've mentioned it. He should be there in the All-Star game with Skeens, but he's trying to just win games for the Pirates by himself.
Dude.
And some of these games it's working, and other games it's not. But my gosh, am I enjoying watching it? And I got to say too, like, you know, we've been comparing him and Ellie De La Cruz for a few years now, and you know, Ellie clearly was the better baseball player last year. I think we undersold what O'Neal was not physically capable, because we knew this was in there, but his consistency at this point is incredible, because we had been earlier in his career, we'd be getting these like every 3 weeks. It was like, oh, there's an O'Neal, 120. Now he's doing it like 3 or 4 times a week. So, and it's just, he is what's one of one.
The center field experiment with him, 2 thumbs down. He's kind of sucks out there. That's a catastrophe. Don't know why we tried that.
No.
Go Pirates. As a hitter, he is 26% better than league average. He is way higher than 26% above league average in terms of entertainment value and watchability.
Oh my God.
Think about how many baseballs have hit bats. This was the hardest one. Thank you to TJ Brassel for producing. Thank you to you, the Fang, for listening. I need to go pack a suitcase.
Yeah, I'll see you in 12 hours.
I'll see you in 12 hours.
Thank you all for listening. We will be back on Wednesday. Oh my gosh. And we will be in the same room. Email us, baseballbarbacast@gmail.com. We appreciate the feedback. And we'll talk to you later this week. TJ Brassel, thanks for producing. Bye.